everybody, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Brennan. We're back after our week-long break. I hope everyone had a nice holiday. Just gonna bring you your general programming reminders now that we're back on track. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main episode. Every Wednesday we are here with our mini-series In the Spotlight, but that's enough about us. Who cares about us? That's not what you're here for right now. What you're here for is our very special guest today. He's been quite popular as of late, folks. It's Mr. Tyler Dema. Tyler, what is going on?
Hi, Brennan.
I'm so happy to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We've also lived like 3 blocks away for like years now, and this is the first time you're finally in my home. So welcome.
Thanks.
Tyler, who the heck are you and what do you do?
Who the heck am I? I'm Tyler Dema. I am an actor, living in New York City, have my whole life.
There you go.
So many things we do to survive.
Yeah.
I work at a gym.
Amazing.
I do personal assistant work.
Hell yeah.
I do random one-off gigs all the time to keep myself afloat because that's what we got to do.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
Tyler, how do we know each other?
How do we know each other? Well, you've just been chasing me down, knocking on my door, begging me to be on your podcast.
Just a big fan, actually.
How do we know each other? I think when I first did Theater by the Sea.
Theater by the Sea.
And
2021?
I think it was when like things were like really coming back from COVID.
Yes.
Like the first thing that was ever.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then, I was doing Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
And you were working in the wardrobe department.
That's exactly right.
I was like, hey, Diva.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
Good times.
And Tyler, did you go to school for theater?
I did go to school for theater.
Amazing.
I went to Elon University in North Carolina.
Gotcha.
Graduated in 2019.
Amazing.
Yeah. Beautiful school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Graduated at a good time.
Yeah. I missed oh my gosh. My heart really goes out to those kids who had to deal with.
I could never. I was just talking about it yesterday. I was like, I took like 2 online classes one summer and like did not have it in me. And I was like, I could have never done my whole education. Like that.
And it's just like they lost like a whole year or 2 of school, of like real school. My gosh, it really, and even just the adjustment thereafter. Like even the ones who graduated in 2020 then that had to go into the world that wasn't the world.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful and lucky that I was like the year before that. But
thank God. So you grew up in good old New York proper?
Kind of. I was born in the Bronx.
Oh, okay.
Lived there for the first few years of my life. And then my parents took us out to Long Island, like a 40-minute train ride. But I was always here. Like my extended family was always around here. So I was always in town to see shows.
Amazing.
Take class. I did some shows in the city when I was like 15, 16.
Wow. Did you have a very artistic upbringing?
I kind of made it for myself. Okay. My older brother was also an actor. So he also did like high school theater. And then I did a lot of community theater around like Long Island and then connections I made through there brought me to like different things here. Amazing. So yeah, it was just kind of natural progression of things. Yeah.
It must be, I mean, I don't really have any concept of it, but it must be nice like having Broadway accessible as a child.
It is. It's so funny because like when I got to school, like when I got to Elon and I was meeting all these people from all these different states and cities and I was like, how do you guys even like know what theater is? Like I was so naive to how other people access theater.
Yeah.
But it's kind of beautiful in a way that they can find it without being
totally
like right up in it. And I think that's the beauty of all that, you know? Yeah.
For sure. I don't think I really did know what theater was, or at least what theater could be when I was young. You know, like I would see like tours at like Providence Performing Arts Center and stuff like that.
Beautiful venue.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Beautiful
gorgeous.
venue.
But like, I didn't have any concept that like, that was a tour. Like it is going places. Like we would see community theater here and there at a little place near us. But like, I didn't really know what the extent of Broadway actually was. I didn't know that there was actually professional theater and acting opportunities in so many different ways, like just everywhere. So that was never really a possibility in my brain just because it just seemed like such a specific kind of select bunch. But like, there's so many, there's so many places on Broadway. There's so many people on Broadway and never mind everything else. So
I know. Truly.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Where is Elon?
Elon is in the town of Elon, which is in the town of Burlington in North Carolina. So it's like
North Carolina.
North Carolina. Yeah. So it's 30 minutes from Greensboro.
Okay.
About 45 minutes from like the Raleigh-Durham area.
Gotcha.
And about 2 hours north of Charlotte, North Carolina, which is actually where I did a handful of like summer stock musical theater gigs right
Amazing.
in Charlotte. So it's interesting. Like I am such a New York boy through and through, but once I got to Elon, I was like such a Southern boy. Like I was not leaving North Carolina for
Interesting.
2 years straight. I was like working on like even on summer break, like in North Carolina. So that was kind of my taste of being somewhere else.
Understood.
You know,
it's important to have that taste.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Culture.
Did you
gotta learn?
Did you like it? Like, was it something where you're like, oh, this is cool?
North Carolina?
Yeah.
Yeah. I loved it. I mean,
fascinating.
Yeah, it was just a nice change of pace, I think, from being in New York, and everyone is so kind.
Yeah.
And I mean, being a real New Yorker, I can go to bat that New Yorkers are kind, just in a different.
Yes.
I mean, I just spent a lot of time in LA, and everyone was like, "Aren't New Yorkers really mean?" I was like, "Nope, you're being fed the wrong narrative."
Yes.
But no, I did.
We're not mean. You just are so slow.
Exactly. No, we just have places to be. Time is not on our side in New York. We're hustling. No, but I really did love North Carolina a lot. Like like I said, my first summer stock gig after freshman year was there the entire summer. And then I even went back to that theater the next summer.
Gotcha.
For like the first half of my jobs. Cause it just really like felt like home. It was really,
awesome.
Really nice to visit too. It's like, yeah. Love it.
You going to end up there someday?
Nope.
You think?
Nope. New York is probably where I will end up. Yeah.
I've always been one to be like, you know what? I don't think I'll stay in New York forever.
Yeah.
And then I still don't know. I think I'm just going to have so many homes everywhere. Don't get me wrong.
Well, no, I love that. But I think we should. I mean, like we were saying before you started recording, like I spent a lot of time in LA this summer. And even though I do think I will wind up back in New York, I mean, my entire family's here. I have a really strong foundation here. But I think there's really something to benefit from living somewhere else, having a new experience somewhere else, like kind of creating a new somewhere else, getting just like starting fresh. Like I have a lot of friends here in the city who obviously didn't grow up here or lived in other major cities for like a decade.
Yeah.
And they're like, it cannot be understated how like living in a new place can benefit you and your well-being. And
for sure,
you kind of gain a new sense of self.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. I think we as humans evolve a lot throughout our own lives that are, and then they could be very short. It's like, take those experiences, run with them, learn from them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was life in LA like? Like what was like the day-to-day feeling?
Well, the great thing is I was very lucky that my gym job transferred me. So I was able to go there knowing I had like, money to make, a schedule to kind of like abide by, even though it was pretty part-time, but I wasn't going there for like 3 months with like nothing. So I had that, which was good. The biggest adjustment for me was, I mean, in New York, seeing people is just a part of like your everyday.
Yeah.
It's just like you're constantly surrounded by people. You're running out to the bodega to grab a Diet Coke, as I do daily. And you just like see like 100 people.
Yeah.
10 of them you've slept with, 20 of them are your best friends.
Iconic.
But like that's what that's what it is. And in LA, you have to like actively get into your car, drive to a location to see another human being, which can get very, I know, I feel like it's very easy to get complacent in that way. You can be like, I just don't want to leave the house today. So then you don't see anybody.
Interesting.
I mean, again, I'm very lucky that I like had a job working at a gym that was very heavy foot traffic. So I was seeing a lot of people every day. So that was an adjustment for sure.
Okay.
You're obviously driving, which is something you do not even have to think twice about in New York, which is something we definitely take for granted. But like I lived like right under Runyon. So like I was able to go on hikes every single morning.
Great.
Just like take in that kind of atmosphere. You can drive 30 minutes to the beach, and depending on where you live, you can walk to the beach from where you are. Like I have been making the joke that it's so much nicer to be poor in LA than in New York because you can, it's just easier to be like happier there, I guess.
Yeah.
Everyone there knows that all this shit is just made up and that it just like go with the flow, go with the vibe, figure out what you want to do. Like don't put a lot of pressure on yourself. I think there are people who really thrive in that environment and people who really don't. I mean, the people who do the best in New York City are the ones who love to hit the ground running. They really love to hustle and they thrive being around that energy. And the people who were the complete opposite. And that's why I think comparing the two cities is like apples and oranges.
For sure.
I found it as a really nice refresher. I was like, it's so nice to kind of be out of the hustle and bustle of the city. Yeah. The musical theater circuit itself it just really put a lot of things into perspective for me about maybe what I want to do in the future, or just other things that make me happy.
For sure.
You know, because I think when you're here, especially when you're trying to pursue musical theater, it becomes so consuming.
Yeah.
It really does become who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the older I get, it's like there's so many other things that make up who Tyler is, you know?
Yeah.
And theater is a beautiful part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a part of me that will always be there. But there's more to all of us as humans.
For sure.
And that really, honestly, being out there, and people can say like, LA is a very vapid city, whatever they want.
Yeah.
But even just the simple fact of being away from this was really just eye-opening to me. And I think it's worth it for everyone to just kind of find who else you are outside of the incredible pursuit of trying to make this like dream come true. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Did it still feel like there was like a heavy art presence there, just like in a more understated way?
Yes and no. I feel like, well, the industry is really changing a lot, and everyone, I mean, in either musical theater or TV and film, everyone will tell you that right now the industry is so weird. The industry's in a weird place. And like, it's true. I mean, like people I would meet at the gym all the time, we'd exchange Instagrams. Everyone's like, director at Hulu, writer at Netflix. Like everyone's in entertainment there.
Crazy.
So like everybody in some form, they're in it. And so it's just kind of like your life. So it's not really put on blast as much.
Heard.
As weirdly as that's like, as weird as that might sound.
No,
because I feel like people in New York City do thousands of things. A lot of them are artists. Of course, it's what we come here to do. But it was weirdly like more common amongst what people are doing, but less more of a like concentrated, this is in your face. Like this is like an artsy town. But I also like, I was living with two actors and they're like, frankly, if you want to do TV film, stay in New York or go to Atlanta. Like it used to be here. Yeah. Like actors still live here. Like it's still like very much the thing, but like things don't even film here anymore. Everything films on location or like the Wicked movie filming in London for half a year. Like things are shooting elsewhere. So yeah.
That's crazy to think that things are shifting so much. Also Atlanta, like I know that is a big place, but it's so that, I don't know. Atlanta just, I don't like Atlanta enough to be like, I'm going to move my whole life there to be an actor, you know?
But it, I mean, it's really becoming like a bigger, like a huge movie hub right now.
Damn.
Yeah. So I guess it all depends on what you really want to do. But again, when I made the comment about getting complacent with like seeing people, I also think there's definitely a danger to getting complacent in LA about like pursuing that dream.
Heard.
Just because you can, like when you first get there, you're kind of blinded by like the sun and the vibes and like we're all chill, whatever. So I did make a really big effort to take class or at least audit classes. I think I audited like 5 different acting classes while I was there just to see what they offer and what they're doing and how it works out there because I'm so musical theater trained, have been my whole life. So I really wanted to get that taste of no one else. What are they doing? How does it work out there?
What are they doing?
It really depends on the class and what you're taking, who you're taking from, and what you want out of the class. Like there was one class I sat in on that was a Zoom only class.
Interesting.
It is interesting. I was like, this doesn't make any sense until I realized that, you know, how like in MT, like all of our initial auditions are usually now self-tapes.
Yeah.
All of theirs are on Zoom. Like they're auditioning on Zoom.
Wild.
Yeah.
I don't think I like that.
Agree. And I was watching them like do their scenes, whatever. Didn't really know if it was my vibe until at the end, he was like, well, at the end of every quarter or session, whatever, he always has someone from the industry sitting on a class, whether it's a casting director or an agent. And like half the class always gets like either signed by someone or they get appointments for things. So like there's a benefit to that.
Great.
There was one class that was fully, it was kind of like a legit theater class. It was like that you'd taken like a BFA program, like you're in an acting class, you're in a studio, there's a couch, there are props you can play with. And then, but it's all about like, he's like, you're not memorizing. Like I want script in hand and I just want you to channel your impulses. Just do whatever you think feels natural with your C partner in that moment. And like, he'll stop you, but if he's feeling like it's not going in, I don't want to say correct direction, but it's not going in a way that he thinks is beneficial to the actors who are doing the material. But for the most part, he's like, I just want to see what you as Brennan would do with this material. Okay. Because especially in film, it's like, you're bringing so much more of who you are and how you speak, your cadence or just the way you interact with the people. Like that comes so much that comes through a lot more in film than I think it does in
For
theater,
sure.
because theater has to be so grandiose
Yeah.
and big, and you are portraying a character, and most of the time you're portraying a character that 40 other people have also portrayed.
Yeah.
Whereas like in TV and film, it's just you, babes. So like,
100%.
what are you going to bring? What are you going to do?
Mm-hmm.
And there was another one that was, they alternated every week between scene study, or you get sides from a commercial or a TV show that was literally just casting last week, and you're doing it on film as maybe it would be an audition. So it's just you, scene partners behind the camera, and then you watch it back, see what you're doing, what your instincts are, maybe how your eye is twitching in this way, and like just seeing what works. So there really was a mixed bag of, what is...
Does it feel like that's changed your perception of yourself as a performer and how you think you would approach it from this point on?
I do, kind of, because this might be a hot take, but I'm one of those actors who believes that when it comes to acting, just acting, there are a lot of things that really can't be taught.
I agree, yeah.
I think of course we can dissect like emotional recall and things like that. But I think there are people who get it.
Yeah.
And people who just have a natural ability to just be who they are and naturally have the ease to be on camera and just connect with someone or connect with no one, which has to happen a lot. Like any Marvel movie that they're making right now, like they're all acting to no one because it is so under wraps. Like Elizabeth Olsen is like, I never worked with John Krasinski. And it's like, you're in a movie with him, babes. But she's not, because she's not acting with anyone. I don't know, like things like that. I think that there's an element of this natural kind of acting that you either have or you don't.
Yeah.
And of course, there are skills you can sharpen, like, of course, but I think it's very different from taking voice lessons and becoming a dancer from like never having danced before. Like, I think those are different skills.
Yeah.
And you can sharpen them in different ways.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, I love acting. And I never really thought of myself as like an actor first, but until I started like doing more of it, and I was like, this is really it for me.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice feeling.
Acting's so nice.
And musical theater is great, but like specifically the acting through song,
Yeah,
that's what it is. That's what the magic really is.
Yeah. And I heard like at one point in college, like someone was like, we're all actors first because we have to act through what we're doing, no matter what we're doing, whether it's dance or song, like we're all actors first. And I think there's like, to some degree, do I think that's a little like flowery and musical theater-y? Like, yes, but also there's legitimacy to that. Like,
I think we need to be actors first.
There it is.
Is everyone an actor first?
There it is.
Who's to say?
Be.
The jury's out.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, we're telling a story.
Yeah. I don't know. And like dance and voice are things that are taught and need to be taught, like scientifically, but I don't know. Being a human isn't so much something that you can teach in that way.
Right.
I don't know.
And also I just think, especially in film and TV, I mean, there are a handful of actors, very famous actors that you can joke like, oh, well, they only do one thing. And I'm like, but they do that one thing so well. And that's their thing.
Yeah.
And that can't be taught. You can't teach what that person is doing to anyone else. Like that, that gives them that it factor.
Yeah.
That's not going to be taught in a black box studio in Elon, North Carolina. Like, it's just not.
And half the time, it's just who they are.
Exactly.
My mind, obviously, because we're in the whole wicked of it all right now, is Jeff Goldblum. I'm like,
but for real,
he's like, Jeff Goldblum. He will always be in everything he does.
Yeah.
And like, he brings different things to each. But like, at the end of the day, he's getting cast because what he is wildly versatile and lovable in so many different environments.
Yes, but also like who he is and what he brings to each role actually works so well as the wizard. I'm like, oh no, that literally is a man who is from Omaha, Nebraska.
Literally. Wound
up in this magical city, lied to a bunch of people, pretending that he could read this book that is of a different language, and now he's like kind of faking it. Like when he came out from behind the Oz head and he was like so like trepidatious, like didn't know how to walk. I was like, oh yeah, this man doesn't know what the fuck he is doing.
Exactly.
But I'm like, I don't think anyone else could have given that energy the same way.
No way.
Like, I mean, we've seen hundreds of men play the wizard on Broadway and they're all great, but like you really, I don't know, you really get to see how that person's natural,
for sure, like
humanisms.
Yeah. That was really one of those things when the casting was announced. Like, I hadn't anticipated that in my head, but as soon as they announced it, I was like, oh, duh. I was like, we literally have no worries about this whatsoever.
No, for real.
There's no need.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But it's once again, it's that thing that like, also just the weirdo of it all too.
Yeah.
I'm like, weird sells, weird is cool,
Just a weirdo.
weird is great. You know,
That's it.
Whatever. I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt as of recently, I'm like, I would like to spend like a stint in LA, you know, like I would like to go there for a gig or something and just like live there, because I couldn't do it full time. I couldn't, you know, I did one gig in California and I was like, I don't know, I was sitting in a Starbucks for like 10 minutes longer than I would here. And I'm like,
yeah,
everyone's just taking their time.
They really are.
Everyone's just like,
I got nowhere to be. They're like, I'll get to the beach when I get to the beach.
Yeah.
I'll go to Disneyland tomorrow.
Exactly. I'm like, I no, like, we need to go, people.
Yeah,
let's move. Let's move. I don't think I'm neurotypical enough for that, or I don't think I'm neurodivergent enough for that, you know? I don't think I'm either ends of those spectrums enough, but like, I would like to just kind of take a chill pill for a couple months and just...
It's really nice. It's a really nice reset, I think. Yeah, for sure.
I also like come from small town, like kind of slow-ish life, still fast enough, but like, I don't know, this city and the hustle and bustle was like what I craved, but now I think I've like poisoned myself with it in terms of like,
it's real.
It's just part of the DNA now.
It is,
you know, and that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
we're better than everyone here in the city, right?
Exactly. But I was kind of thinking about the last night when I was stoned. I was just like when I was like seeing, I was coming in, I was in the city all the time, and I was like, what, 16, and meeting grown gay men and thinking about how like I've been very mature for my age for a long time, and I think it's because I grew up here. Like there's something to be said about kind of like accelerating my maturity and my growth.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of being in situations that I don't think other teens were in.
You have to fend for yourself in the city just to exist, but never mind like as a kid, like you do need to develop so many senses of the real world. I mean, like even adults that don't live in the city have so many perceptions of what the city is and how dangerous it is when like...
Oh, beyond. Yes.
Realistically, that's not what it really is like, but it's just because... they haven't had to develop those senses of wherewithal in those regards, you know? Yeah. So like it does make sense in that regard. You know? Like you have to be mature. You have to be at a different, it is a different lifestyle, but like you have to be different in that way from people your age and just from people in general. You know, it is a specific breed.
No, I totally agree.
And there's no other place like that, at least in this country. It's true. You know?
It's true. It's why we're the most intelligent.
Yeah. That's a real problem I have, is thinking I'm way smarter than everyone else.
But we all
I'm just an idiot. I'm just
but we're all figuring it out.
Yeah.
We are all figuring it out.
Yeah. I can walk down a sidewalk and not get too anxious, and that's a skill in its own, you know?
There you go.
There we go.
There you go.
So, at what point did you start like auditioning around here, since you were #local?
Oh my gosh.
Was it something that was happening while you were like in college and stuff, or was that we're gonna wait till after? Okay.
Yeah. So like I mean, when I was in school, there were certain shows that I like I wanted to be in, even though I knew like I wasn't gonna book it in that moment. Like I still wanted to be seen. So the great thing is I was very lucky. My dad works for an airline, so he was like, amazing. I was flying for free back and forth.
Hell yeah.
All the time. Yeah. And I would just like stay at my aunt's apartment on the Upper East Side because I wanted to go to this audition this day, whatever. So I mean, of course, it was just like, it was the experience, and I was kind of just like throwing myself into it, not really knowing quite a lot. But then my agent signed me about 2 months before I graduated.
Wow.
And
was that via a showcase?
So that was via what Elon does.
Oh, okay.
So I guess I'll talk a little bit about it.
Like, yeah, please do.
I think it's honestly something that really sets the program apart that I found very beneficial. We do what's called a casting director series. And unfortunately, the students, are responsible for raising all the money. But so like starting from like freshman year up until like senior year, when we have to start inviting people down, we raise about $20,000 for casting directors series, is what we call it. So we essentially, what we're doing is inviting for a weekend, either a casting director or an agent down to Elon. We are picking them up from the airport. We're paying for their flights. We are putting them up for the weekend, and they essentially get to see the full range of our talent. So we start with the dance call first. Everyone does the dance call. And we split it up into different levels. So of course, like the stronger dancers will do like the harder tap combination or so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then everyone gets an individualized appointment to go in and sing for them. Typically like 2 contrasting cuts. And ideally they either talk to you more about like who you are and like what you want to do, or they want something else from your book, or they're like, I don't really know if that fits you maybe. So like, let's like try something else, or like, do you have something comedic, whatever. And then when all the appointments for the day are done, we take that casting director or agent out to dinner with all of us, and we just kind of like pick their brain about what the industry is like now, or like what they see or on the other side of the table, or maybe how their agency works, if they're bi-coastal, whatnot, like if each agent covers the entire roster, or if they split it up, like things like that, or just about like, do you have a family? Do you like dogs? Like it could be like, we literally, and so you're really like kind of fostering a more personal relationship. And I think it's been I
like that a
like
lot.
It really helped me for sure. Like even with casting directors, like we kind of randomize who like gets to pick people up from the airport, whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember I was assigned to drive one casting director back to the airport after his weekend. And he was like, here's my number. If you have anything that you want to talk about, business related or not, like I'm here for you. Like, because we just, you know, when you just like, there are people you just connect to naturally.
For sure.
And to this day, he's a close friend. Like we got coffee like 2 weeks ago.
Amazing.
And I think it's honestly kind of what I really wanted to focus on today, is about like relationships and how important relationships are in the industry.
They say it's everything.
No, but like it really is.
And
until you have experienced the true gravity of the importance of the relationships, whether good or bad, like you don't really know how much it really is, like how much weight it really holds.
For sure.
But yes, so we bring them down, and then usually it's always optional to do a like 54 below showcase for each class. Like I think like it's like spring break, but most classes do, because it's more exposure, and we can invite more casting directors and agents to see. But also, like for instance, with me, the agent reached out to me about 4 days before he came down to Elon. And he was like, when you're back for spring break, I would love to set up a meeting with the entire office, but also we're going to bring a few, to 54 below to like hear sing, whatever.
Great.
So like that is great. But back to the question that you asked me. So yes, I was coming up a lot. That's my issue, is that I will go on so many different tangents. My stories will go 17 different ways, but I will always come back to the point.
That in itself is mind-boggling to me. I could never.
So back to the answer to your simple question. I was auditioning a lot before I like was officially like here. And so my agents really took advantage of the fact that I was like from here, and that I had free flights. So for the last like 2 months that I was at Elon, I was also part-time. So I had a lot of free time to go back and forth. So they would send me in for a lot of things, just because they're like, I think any agent that is signing someone who like just graduated, let's say, they're going to send them in for a lot, because they want to get that client a lot of exposure. They want the casting directors that those agents are close with to meet their new roster.
Yes.
Be like, this person very talented, we believe in them, but like we might not know where they fit or whatever. So you're also throwing so many things at the wall, seeing what sticks. So like that's definitely what was happening. But I kind of got like a head start on that, I think.
Yeah.
So like for like all of April and May of 2019, I was just going in for anything and everything.
Yeah.
Also very helpful for me to learn what I'm actually good at, or like where I really fall with other people. But like, I remember my first appointment ever that they got me. I was shitting myself. Like because also like I grew up seeing these shows on Broadway almost every weekend. I knew who all these people were. Like I knew all these performers. So I was in a tap call for something. I am not a tapper. Let's preface with that. And I was in that call with former Newsies, Kinky Boots Angels, Mormons. Like it was not, I was a small fish in a very big pond, but it kind of makes you, I don't know, kind of, it's like a shock to your system of like, listen, like this is what you're going to be dealing with, and like go for it or don't. So it was very eye-opening for me. But then from one of those auditions, I booked summer work. I did Legally Blonde the summer right after I graduated. And then right as that show closed, I started rehearsal for my first national tour out of school.
Amazing.
So it just like happens. But also like that tour, for instance, also happened because of like a relationship. It wasn't even really an appointment that they got me. So So
Heard.
I think that it's all so real.
Do you have like a type or something that you consider yourself better at than everyone else? Like, do you have that lightning in a bottle?
I'm definitely better at being Tyler Dema than anyone else is. That's for sure. That I can say confidently.
Yes.
But honestly, that is everyone's fucking superpower.
Yeah.
If there's anything that I want, like any young generation should know, is that no one is you.
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean so many different things.
For sure.
But no one is you. And I think the best way to kind of grab onto that and ride with it is through your relationships.
Yeah.
Because no one is going to be able to foster a relationship with someone the way you are with them.
100%.
And whether that's good or bad.
Yeah. And right now, especially like the union, with the way the union membership has been changing lately, like the market is so oversaturated. So many casting directors are just going with people that they know.
1,000. Oh my God, I can unpack that.
It's a huge double-edged sword. However, like people want to work with fun people that they like and trust.
100%. I could say so much to that. The oversaturation. I mean, like, listen, when I was in college, my music theater class was 16 people and now they're 32.
Oh my God.
Like they're coming in droves every year. New musical theater programs are popping up. The ones that already existed have much larger classes. And again, we should be so happy that we now have so many more weirdos who want to do musical theater.
Totally.
I love that. But it's becoming really overwhelming, especially for casting too. And again, I got coffee with a casting director friend, a different one, a few weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, it's all really tough. Yeah. And I said, can you confirm for me that I'm not crazy? Like, the same people are working on Broadway. And he's like, no, you're absolutely right. And I'm like, I get it. These people are talented. These people are reliable.
For sure.
There are thousands of talented and reliable people who have not gotten this big break yet. And how are we expected to break into it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's really tough.
How are we going to break into it?
Girly, I don't know. Through our relationships.
And
I'll tell you why. I'll give you some insight as to what, like, how it's benefited me, or even not. Like, it's gone south.
For sure.
So we're going to get really vulnerable on the pod today, okay?
Yes.
My first one was Adam Kaplan. I don't know if anyone knows Adam Kaplan. He was Calogero in the Broadway production of Bronx Tale. He was in Newsies on Broadway. He understudied Jack Kelly and Davy. Incredibly talented person. I started taking one-on-one classes, or I guess he was my college audition coach, essentially. So I met with him maybe 5 or 6 times.
Wow.
Before I started auditioning, but also like a few like while I was still auditioning for things. Yeah. And Adam is an Elon alum.
Amazing.
So funny enough, like as he's, of course, I believe that he was bringing a lot of his like real life learnings into our sessions, but he was essentially giving me Elon's training through our like one-on-one kind of coachings. Yeah. So he essentially reached out to the head of the program and he's like, listen, like I have a student coming to audition for you. Just like keep an eye out for him.
Yeah.
And then I got in. I only auditioned for 8 schools, which is I think a little low.
Sure.
Like I know like people who I went to school with, they audition for like 25. Don't know how they have the time, energy, nor money to do so, crazy. But good for them because it's tough. And you never know where it's gonna fall. So I auditioned for 8 schools, only got into 3. Elon is the one that really felt like home. And because Adam spoke so highly of it, it just like felt like the right fit. And again, so first time a relationship helped me get to where I kind of wanted to be. Let's fast forward 4 years later. It's like the week of graduation where like, I don't think anyone's even in class anymore. I was like, I think I was leaving Duncan or something. And I was heading back to campus and Adam texted me. He was like, hey, do you know anybody who wants to go in for the national tour of Bronx Tale? I was like, yeah, diva, me. He was like, okay, great. Send me your headshot resume. I'm going to send it to Mark Kilman, who is the associate choreographer. So essentially, Adam got me the appointment.
Yep.
And this was late in the process. Like, I think they wanted to cast by the end of that week.
Oh, wow.
So they had auditions for it for months leading up to that. I know that because the people who I was in the show with had been in for it for months.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was kind of a mixed bag, this call of like people who are just going in for it for the first time, people who have been in, and this was like their callback of sorts. So I went in and I knew Mark was keeping an eye on me. So I knew I had to be like on my A game.
Of course.
And like there was even one point in the dance call where there was like some footwork that I was not getting. And I was doing the rest of the combination really well.
Yeah.
And there was one thing I was not getting, and he called me out and he was like, it's this, this, and this. I was like, okay. I was like, next time we do this, I don't care if I fuck up every single other count of this combination. I have to do that one part correctly because his eyes are going to be glued to my feet.
Totally.
I don't remember how I did the rest of the combination, but I know I got that part right.
There you go.
And I nailed it. And then like they called us in to sing right after that. I had a final callback the next day for a couple of the tracks and then to cover the lead. And then the next day after that callback, Adam calls me.
Amazing.
And he was like, hey, bud, just like wanted to check in, like, how'd it go? And I was like, oh, like, I think it went really well. And I just kind of recounted the entire audition from what I could remember and just being like, yeah, like it'd be really cool if I got it. Like, I don't really know. They seem to really like me, like, not sure. Like, again, like you don't want to get your hopes up because it's once you do and then you don't get it, it's heartbreak. And I could tell he was like itching on the other end of the line. He was like, all right, please don't celebrate because you have to wait for agents to call you, but like, you're going to get an offer. Like they called me, they loved you. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like connections, relationships like that. Like even Adam wasn't even the one making the decisions, but he was the one who was like, you see this kid. And he'd been with me kind of on this journey for like 4 years already.
And that's awesome.
So that's like kind of how I got that, you know? And then generally, speaking of like relationships and casting directors, and your agents can do a lot for you. They really can. And they should. That's what they're there for.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean, a lot of the times, like you need to think about how like the thousands of submissions that casting is getting for one track in one show. And if you have that casting director on your side, you're going to get an appointment for it.
Yep.
And that's something that can't like be understated. Like I know that there are agents out there that are appointment collectors and they don't really work for their clients. Like I will say, like while I was in LA, so those 3 months, I had 6 auditions. One of them was from something that my agent submitted me for. All the others were from casting directors calling me in for it. And I did confirm that. Yeah. So like we always joke, not joke, I guess it's kind of a way to lessen the pain when we don't book something. But it's like, you know, I didn't book the job, but I booked the room. Yeah. And then you like sob like an hour later.
For sure.
And that's okay. Like we are humans with feelings and we are of course putting so much of our stock into this. Like we're going to be upset when we don't book something. And it might sound like something to make you feel better of like, well, I didn't book it, but I booked the room. But that's so fucking real.
It really is.
And you actually have to hold on to it. Yeah. Because you don't know. Your headshot is going into a pile. Yep. It's either, yes, they're going to book this. No, we don't see them as this. See, explore later. Yeah. And that explore later pile is magic because you won that person. Totally. Like I got coffee with the casting director a few weeks ago. And he called me in for 3 different tracks for one tour over the course of like 6 months. Heard. And we had I adore him. We had a very candid conversation. I was like, this is off the record. Like, what's happening? Like, am I not presenting myself in the way that I think I am? Am I going in for the wrong things? Like, what is it? And he's like, you're doing great work. He was like, I can always tell there's thought behind what you're doing. Every time you come in, you're incredibly prepared. I see the work you're doing. I see that you fit into the world of this show. I was like, I didn't even get, like, I was in for 3 different tracks and didn't even get a final callback. He was like, just because you didn't get a final callback doesn't mean you're never going to be in the show. Yeah. I was like, what do you mean? Because I couldn't grasp this.
For sure.
I was like, listen, we had to, at that point in the process, we had these tracks to fill. Rehearsals are starting in 2 weeks. Like, they're like, maybe Tyler's not a good fit with Brennan. Yeah. And Brennan's cast already. Yeah. we're going to explore him later. He's going to be a replacement for something else. Like these are real conversations that casting is actually
for sure
having. And we just have trouble believing it because we want the immediate gratification. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, we're actors. We should be able to do anything with anyone.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. But that's not, I mean, I think a lot of casting directors are incredibly smart and a lot of them are really not. And you have to paint the picture for them.
Exactly.
They're not going to imagine you looking XYZ way. Like, I mean, I don't think we should be dressing up as characters for auditions, but like you need to, like, I think there's definitely something to be said about like dressing in the world of the show or looking like the character that the people who have played it before you look, because casting cannot spend more time creating that in their head.
For sure.
You need to give it to them, especially with, like we were talking about the oversaturation. They're seeing so many people.
Yeah.
But then again, this is how your relationships come into play.
There
Like
you go.
but you have to use them.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is like I was having in the same conversation. He was like, continue doing what you're doing. He was like, you need to reach out to people. You need to use your resources. He's like, I don't know why actors are so afraid to like ask for things. Like, ask for things. He's like, if you see a director that you know in Fire Island, like, be like, hey, love your work. I'm also thinking about like getting into the creative side of theater. Like, can we get coffee one day?
For sure.
And even if it's just a conversation, you're at least opening the door.
Totally.
Because like eventually that person can be like, oh, I need an associate director on this.
Yes.
For this 3-week regional gig. Like maybe the show runs for 6 weeks, but 3 weeks out of your year, you have 2 weeks of rehearsal, maybe 1 week of tech, and then open.
Yeah.
I mean, for a lot of people, that could be a lot of time. But,
for sure.
But listen, like that's 3 weeks out of your year that you are gaining knowledge, doing on-hand work, working side by side with someone who's been in this. And that's education. Like that's how that continues. You know what I mean? And people aren't going to know that you want to do that unless you tell them. So like, you need to be more vocal about
what I mean? That's exactly right. And it's hard too, because you don't want to burn any bridges. You don't want to give yourself a bad name, but there are also just like so many in every side of this shape. There are so many people. There are so many casting directors. Yes. There are so many agents. There are so many actors that if you get remembered poorly, it's going to be by one person in a sea of so many. And it's probably not going to happen. You're probably not going to get blacklisted from expressing interest in something.
No, you
be
won't.
Smart about it, of course. Like have some social tact, but like fight for what you want, you know?
Yeah, I
reasonably.
agree.
You know? Yeah.
And then on the flip side of relationships and maybe things not being great, a relationship not being fruitful, I can definitely speak to that too. And now that, I mean, in the full state of transparency, like with the agents that I've been speaking about for the past 20 minutes, for the past 2 years, I haven't felt really connected to them. Yeah. And this is going to be a story of listening to your gut and your heart, but also the importance of sometimes burning bridges is exactly what you need to do.
Yeah.
Whereas, like I said, these agents they're wonderful agents. They're very reputable. They know a lot of people. They've been in the biz forever. And I remember when I was deciding between which agents I was going to choose, because I had one agent who was obsessed with me. And he was like, I want to be your agent, your therapist, your mom, your best friend, your dog walker, like whatever you need, I'm here for you. He's like, I haven't been able to submit you or everything, but I have a pile of things that I've been thinking about for you. Like he believed in me wholeheartedly and was like, he was going to be like a good sis. And I was like, oh, that makes me, of course that makes you feel very comfortable. And like, this person's really going to fight for you. And then I met with the agents that I signed with, and they were incredibly professional. I knew like they had a great name. Like I knew that I would have had a very, the business side of what I needed from all of it would have been in very good hands with them.
Heard.
And that's what I went with.
Yeah.
And I went with the security, and I went with knowing that they had a really good reputation with, at least within casting and with other agencies.
Yeah.
And I felt they were like the best choice for my career at that time. But then I'll try to stay on track. Essentially, for the last 2 years, I felt like our connection was non-existent. Yeah. They got me a lot of appointments. I mean, they didn't even get me the appointment for the tour that I was on. Like a friend did. Again, relationships. Yeah. That's what I want to like emphasize throughout this entire story. Granted, every time I did get a job, they always got me more money. Yeah. They always negotiated things. Like I remember I did my first equity contract that I ever did. I didn't take my card at this point, but I was on an equity contract because my agents fought for me to get one. They knew I was doing like a sister production, and they were like, we know you have more equity contracts. Tyler should be on one for this track that he's in. Great. And I got one. Great. I've always got more money. Yeah. It's always like, that's always been great. But I realized that like everything before that, I was like, I feel like I'm not getting out of it what I want, which is like someone that I can like get on the phone and talk to and be like, I'm really stressed about the situation, or I'm really struggling with the appointments I'm getting. I'm really struggling with not booking. I'm really struggling with not getting feedback. Like, why aren't we getting feedback? Or like, I think over the past like 2 years, I've been in like finals for at least 4 different tours. Hard. To the point where like the day offers are going out, I'm like this could be it. Like I'm that far in the process. And I got an email from them that's like, didn't go your way, on to the next. And it's like, yes, on to the next because we're going to keep fighting.
Of course.
However, this is like the third time in a row I'm in finals for something.
Mm-hmm.
I know like at that point it's a lot of pieces of the puzzle and maybe it's just like we went another direction. I get that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also get that casting cannot spend that much time giving everybody feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just not possible. But at the same time, I felt like they weren't even trying or even invested enough in the trajectory of my career.
For sure.
To find out maybe why this wasn't going my way.
Yeah.
And I felt stuck for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And this is also the time that I was toying with LA.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I want an agent that's bi-coastal so I can have one that, like if I say I do want to pop out of LA for 6 months, I have reps there. Maybe ones that do more TV, film, whatever. And so it also kind of kept being like, it was less about what they were doing or the lack of what they were doing and more about like my vision changing, even my vision of who I was. Like, again, these people signed me 2 months before I graduated school.
Yeah.
That was in 2019.
Okay.
It's 5 years later.
For sure.
A lot can happen in 5 years. You change as a person.
Yeah.
And you also change as a performer. Like I also didn't feel like we were seeing myself the same way. Like for instance, they like think I'm like a dancer first. And like majority of my jobs have been dancing in the ensemble. But I'm always, every single job I've ever had post-grad was covering something.
Yeah.
Whether the lead or this, like whatever. Like I was always understudying, which I loved. I love having that skill of being able to do that. And I don't think a lot of people like have that brain as naturally, but I think most people can do it. But like that was always like my thing, like dancing ensemble covering. Good enough to play those roles, whatever.
Yeah.
But they were so focused on me as a dancer. And I'm like, it's just not, like, that's just not what's fulfilling to me. And I honestly, next to a lot of these dancer boys, especially all these ones that are like coming out of the woodwork, you grew up doing competition dance, like I'm not doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
They're not doing what I'm doing in a lot of ways, but like we're not seeing eye to eye on that.
Totally.
Like I think there's a very specific connotation that comes with saying that you're a dancer first that like I didn't really have. I'm a very great dancer.
For sure.
I can hold but I'm aware of what I'm capable of.
Yeah.
You know, there was kind of a gray area there. Before when I said I'm not a tapper, remember I got like 3 or 4 tap appointments in a row from them. And I replied, I was like, can you please put a note in to not submit me for any more tap shows? Like I think we already went over this. So I was like, what is going on? There was just a disconnect. There was a big disconnect there. And so for a while I was like, I think I really need to drop them.
Yeah.
I don't think this relationship is fruitful. I'm looking at the past 6 months and 95% of the auditions I've had weren't even from them submitting me. They were from casting reaching out for me.
Yeah.
Or like a callback that I got from an ECC for something like, so I'm like, are they even working for me? Am I just like another name in their roster? But I'd signed with them I re-signed my contract about 2 years prior and it was for 3 years. So I had another year with them and I was like, I just don't know about this. And I also was thinking about just other careers generally. So I was like, what is going on? About 2 weeks ago, they call me and they're like, hey, Tyler, this is not a great conversation to have, but the industry is in a really, really weird place right now. And we need to make cuts to the roster and we're going to have to let you go from your contract early. And it's kind of like that thing where like, you're going to break up with someone, but then they beat you to it.
Yeah.
It's actually exactly like that. But I was taking a walk with a friend and you would have thought that I was booking something. I had my phone to my ear and my mouth, my hand over my mouth. And I was just like beaming. You literally thought I was booking Broadway, but I was like, they're dropping me. But, and I say that because I felt it in my gut that this needed to happen.
Yeah.
But when the agent who signed me got on the phone, they said, you know, if you wish to seek new representation and you want them to call us, we will speak so highly of you and your talent, which is maybe not something that they would have offered if I burned the bridge. That could be the case. Yeah. I'm not sure. But that was really nice to hear. But also it kind of really gave me a wake up call. Like, listen, this is the universe is slapping me across the face with do something else.
That's amazing.
Or like, you know, it really was like, I'm like, this is a blessing.
For sure.
And then circling back to the same coffee with the same casting director that I was talking about earlier, I told him all of this. And he was like, it's so nice that they offered you that. You didn't even need that. He was like, if you want new agents, you tell me who you want to meet with and I will set up meetings for you.
Great.
I will speak highly of your talent. I am in your corner.
Yeah.
So many other casting directors are. He was like, think about how nice it's going to be for you to represent yourself and represent your business for a while, knowing that you've already made these connections. It's like you've been in the biz already for 5 years post-grad. It's like they've served you in the way that they needed to. And now you can take what you've learned from them or the relationships that you've built with all these people to then continue further.
Yes.
He's like, and if you want to buy Coastal Agent, tell me, I'll make you a list. I will set up these meetings. Like, that's what I want to stress about the power of relationships, because think about how many times in your life you have to end a relationship that isn't serving you in that way anymore. And then the opportunities that leaves you to then find one that is fruitful for you.
100%.
That could be with your family, that could be platonic friends, that could be romantically, but that could also be your career.
100%.
And that's what I think, one thing that I really want to stress to people is that your relationships matter so much more than you think they do. Even if people want to hire you again, like, I think it is such an honor to be asked back to work at a theater again. And that's happened to me 3 times. Like, and I've never looked at it like, oh, like I have the same theater on my resume like 4 times.
Yeah.
Babes, they love you. They want you back.
For sure.
There's something to be said about that.
Heard.
You know?
Yeah.
So
100%.
I think it's really important.
The whole putting yourself first in those relationships is like such a hard thing to like grapple with. And like, I think it's the very first time that you do it is always going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done.
It's scary.
Life. And then as soon as you see just how much your life improves, it's like, oh, okay, no, I need to do this in different departments of my life with a lot of different people and just really curate myself and my environments and what is best for me. Because like, and like, that's another thing too, especially it can be so hard with family too, where it's like, yeah, well, you have, like, they're your family, you have to, and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, babe, there's so many people on this planet. Yeah. And there's so many people who will treat you better than others in this lifetime.
And also like I said, like, life is way too short.
Way too short.
To spend time with people who are not constantly lifting you up.
Yeah.
Or just like make you happy to be around, period.
Totally.
Like, how lucky are we that we get to spend time with people who love us and who we love back? Like, at the very least, we have to take that away from life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the way that transfers to work is like, listen, like, spend time fostering relationships that benefit you and also benefit that person.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's a lot of this business that we're trying to just make sense of.
A lot of times when the ball is not in your court and it is happening to you, it can also be one of the most devastating things. And then you heal, you move on, and then new people come into your life and you're like, oh, wait, no, like, this is how I should be treated. This is how I always should have been treated. Like, and it's just, it is a learning curve, but I implore all of you to really be introspective about who you are and what you need, and just go about getting that in all different places in your life. You know, there's so many jobs on this planet. There's so many people on this planet. There is no reason that you should be miserable for more than a month at a time in the same environment, you know, in the same circumstance. So y'all, you got to rip the Band-Aid, because once you do, it is going to open up a world of possibilities.
1000%. Like, don't be afraid to evolve, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we're supposed to change throughout our lives.
Exactly.
In a lot of ways. Don't be afraid of it, you know?
No. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, wow. That got deep, Diva.
That felt really nice.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so true.
Yeah.
I think relationships are huge. I'm also just like, I think it's part of the reason why I became a performer or like wanted to be an actor, is like, I'm just obsessed with human connection.
Yes.
Just as we, as people go through life, obsessed with relationships. Like, like, even if you're not actively thinking about it, like, we as people are obsessed with relationships.
Totally.
In any capacity. Like, think about all the times that you catch up with a friend over dinner or you're catching up about your week, whatever. Most of the things that you're going to talk about, vent about, want advice about, have to do with some sort of relationship.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like, whether it's your boss, whether it's an ex, whether it's your best friend, whether it's your mom, whether it's your career. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I shout out to one of my favorite podcasters. His name is Mark Groves. He is a human connection specialist.
Amazing.
This man rocks my world and has really helped me kind of like, I guess, discover a passion of like human connection and relationships and all this. And this is kind of why I wanted to talk about this. Like, Like I really recommend a lot of people go and listen to some of his stuff because it really it also gives you peace of mind. Being like, you need to be nothing more or less than your authentic self.
Exactly.
And then the people who are supposed to be in your life and foster the best part of you, they'll be there. It'll happen. And then it'll lead you to like the best version of yourself and what you're meant to be, you know?
There's too many things that are out of your control for you to focus on being anyone other than yourself and doing anything other than what you want to do.
1000%. Especially in this career.
Yeah.
Way too many things out of our control. Way too many things. And that's honestly, that's been the most discouraging thing for me, I think, is like, I know I could be leaving these rooms doing the absolute best work I can do.
Yeah.
Knowing I'm really right for this. I absolutely slayed this. Other people are texting my friends saying, Tyler was the best dancer in the room today, period. Because when does that happen?
There you go.
Maybe once ever. And then you don't get it.
Yeah.
But then it's like, without naming the names, naming the shows, but like I know for a fact, like there are people who are in finals for something and they don't get it because they remind the music supervisor of their ex-boyfriend. That's real.
Yeah, for sure.
But like, that's not feedback you can give someone. You know what I mean?
No.
And it's like, how do we make sense of that?
You can't.
That shit's crazy.
You simply can't.
But like, that is literally the business we are signing up for.
Totally.
And so if there's something I could give to the kiddos who want to do this, just know that there are going to be so many things that do not make sense.
Yeah.
And you cannot waste your time trying to make sense of them.
100%.
You have to move forward.
You really, I mean, you have to work hard to be the best performer you can be, but at the same time, like, so much of this is just really believing delusionally, if you have to, that what is meant for you will not pass you by.
Oh, I'm so glad you said that because another, I have a notes section, everybody. another section of my notes is like, I have a little section of things that I think we as performers hear a lot, like tropes or quotes, like that we hear very often, either while we're getting our BFA or while we're trying to pursue it in the real world. So many things that we hear that it actually takes a lot of time to really understand the gravity of.
Totally.
And I think what you just said, for those who cannot see, it is the first thing that I have. The number one is what's meant for you will not pass you by. But it is so true because there's sometimes when I'm seeing a show and someone is doing something that is so what they should be doing.
Yeah.
And I've never seen this person before. I'm like, who is that?
Totally.
But it's because we haven't seen them yet because this needed to happen for them. Like, I think for a lot of time, a really long time, and maybe I still have work to do on this. I think that I was like, I could do a lot.
For sure.
I can fit into the world of many shows. I can do anything. Tyler can do anything he wants, which like to some degree, of course. But when you really start to understand who you are, and I don't think this can happen in college. Like,
no.
I think when we graduate school, we all think like we're ready to tackle the world.
Yeah.
We really don't know who we are yet.
I think you definitely become a person, but you don't become the person.
Like what I said earlier, we're all still evolving. You cannot be afraid to evolve.
Exactly.
Like when you hit like your early 30s is probably when you're really starting to gain like the truest sense of self.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you start to really be your most successful. I mean, of course, there are a lot of success stories. People go on Broadway 2 months after they graduate.
Yep.
People leave school to be on Broadway. I'm not saying it's that black and white. But when people hear what's meant for you will not pass you by, it's because there's something out there that you are so meant for.
Yeah.
And you just need to let time do its thing.
Yeah.
And you're not going to like really realize that until you really start to gain a truer sense of self. And you're like, oh, all those things that I thought I was really doing well or I was nailing, like you could have been doing them well.
Totally.
But like when the thing comes along that was meant for you, there will be no question that should be yours.
Of course.
Like, honestly, that hasn't even really happened for me yet.
Yeah.
Like, I'm still waiting. I'm 27. I'm still waiting for something to be like, oh, this is it for me.
Exactly.
But it'll happen. There with you. Yeah.
It will. It's like, this industry is full of dreamers for a reason, and it is because you have to dream. You know, you have to be so sure that like yes, I'm doing all my survival jobs right now, but that is because, quite frankly, there is nothing I would rather be doing than sticking it out and waiting for this dream, you know, and I'm going to do what I can. I'm going to work in the ways that I need to in order to try and make that happen. But like, once again, there is just so much that I cannot control in terms of making this happen, that I just have to have that dream and have the faith and just be so confident in what I want out of life.
Totally. And I think with that, with trying to pursue a really crazy and difficult dream and also trying to survive, like that, there's so much to be said about how much it takes for an artist to hold energy in two places at once.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Because that is a feat that is difficult, and that is something that's why I think artists are probably some of the best humans, because and some of the strongest and most intelligent, because it takes a lot of energy to be fully invested in your career, auditioning constantly, crazy hours, crazy amounts of preparation, while also like you need to be having a job that is flexible enough that lets you do all of that, but also pays you enough to eat food and pay rent. Like
in the most expensive city in the world.
In the most expensive city in the world. It seems like an impossible task. And so every artist who is not doing a long-running show that is providing them financial stability to survive, you need to give yourself so much grace for putting so much of your energy into two places at once. It's seemingly impossible, but it'll all pay off. Anyway, well, because I want to get to my second point, which is a Sierra Boggess quote, our queen, which is, "You have nothing to prove, only to share." Bam. Which kind of goes hand in hand with like, what's meant for you will not pass you by. Yeah. And when I say that, I mean, I still think there's a lot of, speaking personally, there's so many times when I go in and I'm like, oh, I'm going in for & Juliet. Okay, I really need to focus on how pop rocky I'm going to sound.
Of course.
I'm going in for, I don't know, West Side Story. I really need to be really mask for mask right now. Like, leave the femininity at the door, which like, sure, like we can dissect the nuances of both of those situations all day long. But at the end of the day, you have nothing to prove, only to share, means that you need to be who you are to the fullest extent. Yeah. You're like as capable as you are of being true to yourself in that room. That's what it means to like not prove anything and share it. Because if you're constantly trying to prove yourself, the most authentic version of you is not going to come through. Yeah. And people can smell authenticity and they can smell when it's not that. And when you're only there to share your gift, that's when all of those inhibitions are going to just fly away. Yeah. You're going to be the most relaxed version of you, the most confident version of you. And that's what's going to make people fall in love with you. Yeah. And you want people to fall in love with the truest version of you, do you not?
Totally.
You know what I mean? So I think when she says you have nothing to prove, only to share, it's like, eliminate the pressure. Yeah. Do what you're going to do to the best of your ability. And then one day it's going to work out because you gave the most authentic version of yourself, hand in hand with what's meant to be for you, will not pass you by because you are doing what you do best.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
The only person you should ever have to prove something to is yourself. And that should never come from validation from others. That should come only from yourself.
Which is so hard to believe when you are 100%. In an industry where it's up to these 6 white men behind a table to decide if you're good enough to be in their Hello Dolly in the middle of Idaho somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's why I think we as artists have such a hard time believing all of these things, because it's like, we have to kind of exist in multitudes. Yeah. We have to really grapple with the fact that hundreds of these things can be true at once. And that's crazy.
Exactly.
It's insane. Like, how are we expected to not go insane? That's why I felt so, I don't know, discouraged the past like year. Like, I haven't worked in a hot minute. Yeah. So it's just, I don't know.
It'd be like that.
It do be like that. But then the moment you really find like the true joy in just being and honestly really accepting the fact that like what is meant for you will not pass you by, it's going to be so much easier and cooler for you to celebrate your friend's success.
Which is another thing. Vital. It's hard, but it's so vital.
Seriously, like, again, another thing we hear is like, your friend's success is not your failure. Yeah. And you can't really believe that, or you don't really understand what that means until you are so happy with what you're doing.
Totally.
That you can finally be like, you know what? It's really fucking cool that my friend booked the show, because do you know how many people have to say yes to your friend that you love, that you believe in, that you think is talented for them to get that job? Like when we finally let all of that shit go, all of the competitive energy of like I went to a person in my class, we were compared to each other constantly in college we are so wildly different, completely different voice types. Like he's an incredible dancer. I'm an okay dancer, but like we like looked alike. He's like 5 inches taller than me. Like there was nothing else besides that. Like he's Greek, I'm Italian. I'm like, cool. Like not like college is pitting up against each other. And now I'm like, you know what? This is not like, we're not the same at all. Every time he's booked, I scream for him. I'm like, yeah, because we should be celebrating our friend's success.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard at first. And again, it's definitely hard in college because you're in college and everything seems competitive and you're in your bubble and it's the end all be all. It's the end of the world. You have a hard time celebrating with not being jealous. But when you finally get to accept that, listen, this is really hard and we're all trying to make it.
Yes.
And it's going to be so much easier for you to decide that you can be happy for someone.
Yeah.
And then, because don't you want that when you book the job?
Of course.
Yeah, babes. Exactly.
I also want to be around talented people. I want to be around talented people. And
lift me up.
The only thing that I want to be upset about is not that they booked something and I didn't. It's that they're leaving me for 2 months.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I'm not pissed that I'm not there. I'm pissed that you're leaving me.
Exactly. And if it's Broadway, babes, I get to see you on Broadway. Work.
There we go. There we go.
And then you'll be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I don't know, it'll make it all so much more manageable to try to survive this insane industry.
Exactly.
We just got to be there for each other. I don't know.
For sure.
That's my soapbox.
It is hard. It is a hard business, and you better know that going into it. I really hope you know that going into it, that it is going to be hard, and it's going to be hard in ways that you probably have not experienced yet in life.
1,000%. And also to that of like, once you actually do book the job, like being on Broadway is a job.
Oh my God.
Like,
yeah.
So many of my like close friends, the dream came true.
Yeah.
They booked the Broadway gig. They're doing it. They are, of course, like we know how many positives come with that. Yes.
Of course.
But like, you have to think about how many things you're going to have to sacrifice.
Totally.
Like holiday schedules, you're going to be exhausted. You're also not going to, you might not see your family for the holidays. Like I'm so lucky that, say if I were to book Broadway, like my whole family's here.
Yeah.
What about all my friends who have family in California or just like random states in like middle America? Like that's a sacrifice. Yeah. You're also like really exhausted. If you want to have a relationship with someone, that's going to be a lot of compromise because like more likely you're going to be dating someone who maybe has a 9 to 5. So when they're off work, you're going to work. When they have their free time, which is the weekends, that's when you're at work the most. Yeah. Like there's a lot to like really understand that's kind of going to be blurred because of like the vision of the dream.
For sure.
But you need to realize that like it's a job and it's an amazing job. And when you do it, it's like so gratifying and you're on top of the world and you are living a dream that maybe you've had since you were a child.
Yeah.
But it's a job. It's a job like everything else. And you need to work hard for it and you need to work hard while you're doing it.
Exactly.
And it comes with compromises just like everything else does.
Yeah.
So if, there's advice to the youngins, you have to really want to do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. We're really getting deep and dropping
baby,
all that
let's
wisdom
get
today.
deep.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And any other closing thoughts that you want to share to the people? Any words of wisdom you want to share to the young Tylers out there?
Let's see. Do I actually kind of know? I think I really hit all of it so eloquently too.
You
weaved
did,
all that in.
Truly.
I don't know. I think it's really give yourself grace to go through the changes that you're supposed to.
Yeah.
And sometimes maybe take a step back and be like, whoa, let's put all this into perspective for a second and see what's really serving you.
Yeah.
And if it's not, change it.
Get it out.
You know what I mean?
Get it out.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to, in the most respectful way possible, don't be afraid to burn bridges if it's not doing what it's supposed to do for you. I think relationships are they're the backbone of humanity and it's how we're going to survive this crazy life. And especially in showbiz. It'll get us through all of it.
I think more often than not, too, those bridges will not be burned. If you're kind and you're smart about it.
Agree.
Like, don't go out guns a-blazing.
Yeah.
There's no need for that. But like, if you got to get out, get out.
Yeah.
Prioritize
at the end of the
yourself.
day, we're all human and they understand that like they're doing this thing too.
Yeah.
And granted, like show business is still a business.
Totally.
So there's a lot to be said about, remaining humane while also enduring something that is indeed a business that has to thrive. So just take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself.
Grace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
There you go, folks. You know what?
And that's it.
We're rooting for you.
We're all rooting for you.
We are your biggest supporters, and you can be our biggest supporters by finding us on Patreon. Folks, that is patreon.com/BA2Broadway. Your normal disclaimer, we are not gatekeeping any vital information on there. That is just for fun bonus content. If you're curious about what that looks like, we actually just released a free episode of bonus content on the pod last week. We did our little most recent bonus content with Katie Garrity. I posted it for the masses. So if you check that out and you like it, come check us out on Patreon. We'd love to have you there. It's a fun community. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA2Broadway. Tyler, where can folks find you if you want to be found?
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at TYLER_DEMA. It's just my first last name, Tyler Dema, _ in the middle.
Hell yeah. Tyler, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I loved this.
You are welcome back anytime.
Oh, let's do it.
And until next time, folks, bye.
Bye.
From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.